everyone, Karen the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for spending time with me today. Fair warning ahead of time, they're still working next door and we've got a reverse vehicle beep 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 going on, and every once in a while they rev up the chainsaw, which I don't know what they're cutting because there is not an inch of wood or bush or tree left on the property, so I don't know. If I go away quickly, that's probably why. Today I want to start on something new. I think last time I mentioned that I might have to take some time off because I was running out of ideas, but of course I have my sketchbook here with ideas that I draw in the middle of the night. And I came across one that I think I want to try, and I've called it Interruptions. You can look at this a couple of different ways, as depending on how you do the color and whatever. It could be that this, where I have just the straight stripes, could be a little curvier, so that this is calm and peaceful, and then you have something, you know, jarring colors or black and white or something that interrupts that peacefulness. And so it might be reversed, so that these are nice curving lines in the background, and then you've got jagged lines coming in for the interruption. Or it could be something closer to this, which is where it might be black and white or I don't know what, and then these curves be something bright and cheerful. And I think that's what I'm going to do. Actually, there are lots of other interpretations you could do too. So it could be a happy interruption. I'm feeling bored, or nothing's going on, or my mind is racing on unhappy thoughts and now I have happier ones going through, or I'm having peaceful, wonderful conversation with somebody and interrupted by who knows what. So my plan is that I'm going to make this pretty long and narrow because I'm thinking about it. I have two spots. My picture window in my living room is sort of set back a little bit, so you know, you might conceivably build a window seat in there. I mean, it's just offset by, I don't know, less than a foot probably. I think it's like 11 inches. And eventually I want to have some narrow bookcases that I put in there, but I haven't had the time to drive down to Kansas City to pick up the bookcases, which they won't ship. So anyway, I'm thinking that I would like a series of pieces that would go there in the meantime, and this is going to be one of them. I have another one in mind which we'll maybe talk about later. So I think I want to start with some black and white strips, and I think I do want them to be even, because I'm thinking about this as interrupted by joy, so that it's just this sort of, not that my life is boring by any stretch, but just this everything going on in the background that's stressful, and just this even yuck. And then having these colorful, bright pieces that are cutting through and interrupting, so it would be interrupted by joy. And these pieces, I don't know, I guess they will in the end, pardon my big old hands getting in here, be cut off at the edges. Actually, I think I want that. They could sort of taper off, as it would here finish this out, but I think I really would prefer, because I'm going to be limited by the width of this piece. So I'm going to have to take that into consideration. So I'm going to do some black and white stripes first, and then we'll come back and just do some curves. A little later on, I'm going to have an update on a couple of things, which if you follow me on social media, you already know about, but you know, just in case. So to start off, while we have beep, beep, beeping going on out there, I'm going to put together some black and white stripes, and then we'll come back and talk about the joy. All right, a couple of rethinkings. First of all, This is too wide for the spot I was thinking of, but I'm going to leave it at this width because when I'm doing these curved pieces, if it's too narrow, you can't really see the curves, and I want to have some nice flowing curves. The second thing I thought of is, what if I were to quilt this background as a piece, and then these curved pieces be added on after it's quilted, and then I could quilt on top of that, or I could make them, let me think about this, I could make them kind of separate quilt pieces on their own and then attach them to the background. Or I could put some batting behind it and quilt on top of it, so there would be some double quilting on the back. Now, if I were going, and I think that's what I'm going to do, so I'll make these pieces separately, and then once I make a final decision, then I can go ahead and finish them however. If I were going to do as originally planned, where this all gets pieced into one piece, I would make these pieces and then do the curve based on each of those pieces. So when if I was cutting the curve on here, I would cut it to match the curve on here, just like I do all the improv curves. So, and I'll put a link, I hope if I remember, put a link down in the description to the video where I show how I do that. But I don't think I want to do that. I do think that I want to make these pieces separately. I can always add them in later if when I'm finished and I lay it out and look at it, I may decide that's not what I want to do. But that is my plan for the moment. All right, I am going to use mostly solids for this. To be honest, I made a piece, hated it. So I'm back to the drawing board. And I want to use, I think, mostly solids, but I may get some prints in there somehow. Now that I'm looking at this, this is too dull. So let me pull a different yellow in. That green maybe will be a little bit too soft as well. Might not hurt to have some softness in there, however. All right, so that I don't get off track on shapes, I'm going to kind of think about something like this shape here. And part of the reason that I am doing mostly solids is because these brights, as you can see, these K fabrics are 2.5 inch strips, and that doesn't give me as much room for tall curves as these fat quarters and lengths do. So I'm going to say do a piece like this, and then I can add on some of these if I wish to, but I think I want them to be smaller pieces in here rather than these larger pieces. And they may not figure in much at all. It may just be a very narrow strip caught in it. So I'm going to go for my first piece, which I think will be blue, and I'll cut something like that to start out. So these are pretty gentle curves, not going to be too difficult. I will put a link to a video on how I do these gentle curves. I'll put that in the description, and that's all I'm doing basically. But first I want to cut out this first curve, which may actually, be cut out like this, and then eventually will be up on end here. So let me start with that, and then we'll talk about doing this piece. All right, I want to put in my first cross piece here. Here is the shape of the piece that I cut. I'm going to be much happier with this than I was with the other piece, and this one is going to sort of fade into this one, and it's going to be quite narrow. It's all right. So I'm going to cut this curve and then to piece this in. And then I will go on to the next piece, which will be up in there. Maybe solid, maybe a print, I don't know. All right, I have cut the same curve here, marked where I want to start sewing. So I'm going to flip this over and I will match up that mark. I like to have the convex on top when possible. If I'm doing compound curves where it's like an S curve, it's going to be both ways, but my preference is for this. And then I'm going to have needle down and just stitch slowly, stop as I need to shift things over, and just lift this up and move it over. You've got serious bias going on here, so you don't want to be pulling it over, which will stretch the bias. So I just go slowly and use needle down and just stop and shift things as I need to. This piece is sewn on and it's going to be trimmed so that this will sort of meld in with that, and then that's going to also be trimmed off, so that's not finished shape. And now I want something in here. I brought up some more sort of prints. Well, they are prints, but not wild prints anyway. And I'll be seeing how some of those might fit into. I have this kind of purpley pink polka dot that I think this is going to be really more vertical than you're seeing here. Let's see how that goes with this. Actually goes pretty well. So I think I will fit that into this spot, maybe. And then think about what might come in next. This is kind of a fun one. It would bring in the green as well. Go with that blue in there. That could be kind of nice. Then we could bring in some of the purple. I think I'll do this one next. This is all going to be the same. I'm just going to cut this so it's the same curve as this. However I want this to fit in here. It's a gentle curve. I'll just sew it as I do all my curves, and as in the video that I will link in the description. And I'll come back and probably just snap a photo at each step so you don't have to watch me go on forever about this. All right, this was not really the color palette that I had in mind, to be honest with you, but I'm liking it. This should actually just sort of fade up into here, so that won't be a complete piece. Let me see if I can just shave that down a bit right now. All right. So, and this is maybe a little wider than I'd originally thought, but I'm okay with that too. I love this blue, so that works for me. So I can tie in some of this purpley kind of thing, and the blue ties in here. So I think we're good. Now let's see how that looks with the black and white background. It's a little hard to wrap your eyes around when it's such a limited size of screen here. But this will be marching up the side like this. I may end up trimming the background a bit. I made the outside wider than these pieces. And this, I don't know, what do you think if we were to trim that out a little bit? I don't know. I don't want to do that just yet. We'll see how it looks with the other pieces when I get them on here. It also occurs to me that maybe I want to do some stitching through here, just kind of some meandering decorative stitches in, I don't know, maybe a color like this. Because this is such a broad expanse here, the other thing I could do would be to just do a strip of something like a bias strip that I put across here. Of course, there's always the dreaded black and white stripe, and of course we can put circles on here at any point too. So, all right, now I'm gonna have to look for circles. I know it's probably not going to go on here in the end, but I'm kind of running short of circles. And this is not quite the right purple. Or we could have some black and white in there. You know, black and white stripes can be joyful to me. Kind of like them. This I would want brighter. Maybe a piece of this, circle out of that. Or maybe this brighter green and have it overlap here. Let me try a circle out of this. All right, we have some circles. Don't know that they thrill me at all. This one's actually not too bad, but and the black and white, I don't hate either. This one, maybe it's the size. In fact, I could use a larger one all around, probably a larger black and white as well, but you know, there's an option. And stitching could be an option as well, or I could do some hand stitching, big stitching as well. I'm almost thinking this really needs to be skinnier here, but I'm not doing that yet. I'm going to see if I can find some bias black and white stripe too. All right, I would want this to be probably narrower or even varying somewhat in width, but that could be kind of fun too. Have it not quite follow and then go up that direction. Don't want to make too much intersection right there. So let's say this goes up and off there. This comes around here. This really isn't biased, so it's a little hard. But that's maybe a possibility. Or maybe a different stripe. Maybe not black and white stripe. I have some colors of stripe that would match these. I do kind of like the black and white contrast though. You know me. So we got all kinds of options here, and if we did a stripe, and because you know this stuff all represents joy for me, having black and white stripes and decorative stitching, circles, you can have some fun with that, don't you think? Anyway, that is going to be it for this week. I'll do some more contemplation here on what I might want to do, and maybe revisit it a bit next week. Wonder if I maybe want to lay this out on the floor and see how this looks when I've got the full picture here, to see whether or not that looks too big or where I want to go from here. So that, as I said, is going to be it for this week. Next week, we'll see what happens. For some updates here, I will show you, I guess I showed you Alice last time. I also did matchstick quilting on It Bears Repeating. And I love this quilt. This is another one that came out of these YouTube videos. And then I also quilted Wormhole 1. I'm working on the pieces for Wormhole 2, which will be more black background with some white in between that are the wormholes. On Wormhole 1, I'm almost thinking, as I was looking at it, if you look at the bottom of the each block, which you may not be able to tell what a block is, but it looks like legs running, so I may call it run around or something, I don't know. But for now, it's Wormhole 1. And then Wormhole 2 is in process. And we shall see what happens. I'm waiting for the ruler plate for Betty. The ruler plate that I have for my old machine does not fit Betty. So I have ordered a new one. We'll see when that comes. Knowlton has a big open house this weekend, so I don't know that they'll have had a chance to send it out yet. But while I'm waiting for that, I can actually start on quilting this black and white background. And when the ruler plate comes, then I have a lot of quilts to be doing. One of them is Pipe Dreams. The pattern is ready to go, but I've got a lot of quilting to do. I'm going to do custom quilting and ruler work on here. Well, it's going to be a combination. I'll also have some digitized pantographs that I'll fit into the colored pipe streams there. I've got one that's got lots of little circles that'll make nice bubbles, and I can do some ruler work for wavy lines, and we'll see. That will be coming up as soon as I get my ruler plate. I'm back. I decided that I really did not like the shape of, well, I like the shape, but there was too much blue. That was too wide. So I went in and cut out some of that, seamed it up again, and then did a black and white stripe across it, and now I like it much better. So I am happy with that. Still don't know about circles, etc., but at least the base piece is where I want it to be. Much happier with it. And I'm almost thinking that I might do an extension either at the top or at the bottom so that this is a longer strip, and the seam between those two could be covered up by one of the joy pieces, because I think it needs to be a bit longer if I want to have 3 pieces in there, even if the other 2 pieces are narrower. I think it would still be too much. So that's where I'm at this moment. So I think that really is it for this week. I hope to see you next week. In the meantime, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.